and your children are turned into mindless vassals who now they look up to some twit instead of looking up to Thomas Jefferson or looking up to Nikola Tesla or looking up to Magellan. I mean, kids, Magellan's a lot cooler than Justin Bieber. He circumnavigated with one ship the entire planet. He was killed by wild natives before they got back to Portugal. And when they got back, there was only like 11 people alive of the 200 and something crew, and the entire ship was rotting down to the waterline. That's destiny. That's will. That's striving. That's being a trailblazer, an explorer, going into space, mathematics, quantum mechanics, the secrets of the universe. It's all there. Life is fiery with its beauty. It's incredible detail. Tuning into it. They want to shatter your mind talking about Justin Bieber.
Hello out there. We're on the frickin' air. Good morning to my friends, my family, my peoples. How we doing? Happy Thursday, everybody. Happy Thursday. It looks like we had another successful day on the Zap stream today. All green check marks. Check, 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 check. We're good to go. This one's titled Wealth is a Mindset, How Your Words Shape Your Reality. And we'll see what happens today. Looks like we're rich again. Looks like we're rich again. I had the price at the bottom there. I see a lot of red on the charts today, which has been rare. Been very rare lately. 62152, I think, or something like that. But as we know, as anybody knows who watches the show on the reg, as you might say, as Kenny Powers would say, on the reg, we don't really measure in fiat terms. We measure in gold. And on an unpopular call here amongst some people in the chat, including who? It's right there, Scotty Boy. Scotty Boy said, "Who is rich? I barely got 2 sats to scrape together." Thoughty. Scotty thinks that we're going lower than this. Scotty's predicting 10 ounces of gold per 1 Bitcoin. I don't see it. I could be wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times before. But so far this year, I don't know. I've only made a couple calls. And both of them have turned out to be right so far. That's the key there. So far. Things could still go off the rails. Anything could happen in the summertime. There's a lot of games to be played. A lot of manipulation to be had. But as of now, this is kind of like the real balance, the real comparison that I would say. And if we look back at March here, everybody knows what happened right here. This was the bottom. This is when we called the bottom, 12 ounces of gold. Scotty thinks we're going lower. A couple other people think we're going lower. I don't think we're going lower. I made a call on the BTC Mastermind the other day saying I think that actually Robin said it. Robin said he thought 58K was the bottom. And I agreed with him. And there's a couple of reasons for it, I would say. The biggest one being just Bitcoin being Bitcoin. 2025, everybody was expecting Bitcoin to go to 250. It didn't. And you kind of have to understand the dynamics, I think, of how this works. And I know I have a lot of respect for the guys who can read charts and who make some predictions. I do. I have a lot of respect for those guys. But you also have to understand that when everybody's thinking something's going to happen, there's usually people who are taking the opposite of that trade. If the popular opinion is this, there's people out there who know how to profit from that opinion. Because what's happening right now is that there's people out there who think that we're going down to 50, 40-ish, and they're predicting that to happen in October. And again, that could happen. I'm not discounting their abilities. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. I'm just giving a few reasons why I think that it's not going to happen. First reason is that if you think about, like I said, first reason is always opposites. Last year it happened where everybody thought we were going double and we started going down. Everybody was predicting us to go to 250, 300. And not just like bums either. Like some of the more prominent voices in Bitcoin were predicting that. The people who pay attention to this kind of stuff, the liquidity, the charts, all that kind of stuff, they thought we were going to 250-ish, 275. Didn't happen. So that was kind of the whole consensus, that we were going up. So everybody was taking on debt. Everybody was piling on because they thought they were going to trade 120 Bitcoin for 250 Bitcoin in a couple months. Didn't happen. People were over leveraged. Price started going down. They got wiped out. They got margin called. They got embarrassed. They got left holding much less than they had before because they were betting on something that everybody expected to happen. So people profited from that. People saw that there was a consensus that we were going higher. The consensus was long Bitcoin, short-term long Bitcoin. And what happened? The opposite. So a lot of people got wiped out, but some people profited from that. Some people profited from that trade and they shorted Bitcoin, or they traded Bitcoin into something else, waiting to get back in later. And maybe they've already got back in. But what's happening now is that there's people out there who are sitting with a bunch of capital on the sidelines waiting for this price to happen. And so when you have capital sitting on the sidelines here, you have no real skin in the game right now. You have there's nothing in there. So what could happen here? What could happen? I'm not saying this is going to happen, but what could happen is if there was some smart people out there and they thought that October was going to, they thought the consensus, they're hearing the consensus of October low. And what if they just started buying? What if they just started buying and there was nobody? 58K was always had orders coming in because they knew that there's a bunch of capital on the sidelines here that's waiting to enter at a lower price. So what are those people supposed to do if that is the floor and there's always going to be a buyer at 58K or higher, and those people never have a say in this whole equation here? And then they keep buying 60, 65, 70, 80, 90. All those people are still on the sidelines with their cash waiting for it to come back down. What if it never does? What if it never does? They're going to get half the amount of Bitcoin that they would have had otherwise. So that's one reason. Always do the opposite. Bitcoin always does the opposite of what the consensus is. I will say that we are still in kind of like a somewhat 4-year cycle. It's not the exact same every time, but it is pretty similar. But I would say that there's still, to me anyways, every time there's a consensus that this is going to happen, the opposite always happens. So will it this time? I don't know. I don't think that it will. I think that we bottomed. I think that March, in real terms anyways, in gold terms, was the bottom here. The other indicators that I would say are, if you compare last bear market, the last bottom we had, I think, was in 2022. So 4 years ago. You compare that to now. How many more buyers are there? How much, how many more people around the world have their green lights on? How many people understand what's happening here? So just knowing how many more people understand Bitcoin as opposed to 4 years ago, that to me would suggest that the floor is a lot higher. So some of the other bear cycles, we've gone down like 70, 80, up to 90%. I just don't see that happening again, unless something crazy happens. And it could. I don't have a crystal ball here. I'm just kind of giving my opinion based on what I see. So that's the other one, is that I think that the opposite always happens. I think that there's way more people now who understand Bitcoin than 4 years ago at the same time. How did Arnie get out there? Magic trick. And the third thing that I'll say is things are different now. Things are different now, and that's objective, because the new Fed chair, and I've predicted a couple things are going to happen in 2026 that are going to be, throw people off guard a little bit, and that's already happened. It's already happened because the new Fed chair has come out and said that they're no longer providing forward guidance, which to me is how things should be. Oh, we missed them. Because when the Fed's giving federal guidance, they're basically telling the market what's going to happen. They're basically the ones who are deciding what happens. Like that was the crazy thing to me about how the Fed was saying, well, this is what the rates are and this is what we expect them to be in the next 6 months to a year. Okay, so you're basically just deciding what happens then. Right? Because markets react to it. Markets will say, hey, this is what's going to happen in 12 months from now. So I'm going to allocate my chips here accordingly. So the new Fed chair has already come out and said that they're not doing that anymore. Kevin, I think his name's Kevin Warsh. He's already come out and said they're not doing that anymore. So I think there's going to be a lot more surprises. That's what that means to me anyways, is that without forward guidance from the chair Fed, like everybody's been used to, the markets have been used to, I think there's going to be a lot more surprises in the market because of that. And I think maybe that's what they want. Maybe the old Fed, who was given forward guidance on things, maybe they didn't feel like they had any sort of control over anything, because they would kind of throw the numbers out there, let the market react. But this way, if you don't tell anybody what you're going to do, then you're more in control. That's kind of how I see it anyways. And control is maybe not the right word to use there, but I hope you know what I'm saying here. So those are kind of the three things of why I believe that people are wrong about October. And again, that's just speculation. That's just purely entertainment purposes. And I have no way of seeing the future. And anybody who speaks with absolute certainty about something happening in the future is full of shit. So that's what I would say about that. And I'm interested to hear, I know some people here think that it's going lower, and that's okay. You can bet on that. And that's a cool thing for me. That's a cool thing being in the position that I'm in right now, is that I don't have any reason to hope one way or the other. I'm good either way, because I'm going to be buying today and I'm going to be buying in October. And on days where it's down, I'll buy more. On days when it's up, I'll buy a little bit less, and I'll allocate a little bit more to my cash reserves. And so with that strategy, you can't really lose. If you understand that we're here for the next 1,000 years, all of these numbers, whether it's 58 or 40 or 90, they're all going to be a rounding error. And I really wish that more people understood that, because then you wouldn't risk holding half of what you could otherwise. I know there's a chance you might get some more sats by waiting for a cheaper Bitcoin, but there's also a chance that you're going to miss out on half the Bitcoin that you would have had otherwise. And 58, 60, 30, 90, 200, these are all rounding errors. These are all rounding errors because nobody knows what the hell is going on here other than like 20 of us on the internet. So, I mean, just be careful. Just be careful. And you can do whatever the hell you want. You do whatever the hell you want. I'm just sharing my thoughts, my opinions on things. I'm allowed to. It's my show. $44K Bitcoin could happen. So, like I said, there's people here who disagree with me, and that's all right. That's what it is. That's what it's all about. Hey, Ginger's here. Good morning, Ginger. Good morning to our guy, Ginger. How's the ginger today? How's the rye and the coffee ginger today? What was I doing here? I see a couple things happen over on Rumble I want to address. I'd like to address. We got a rant. A rant from Jenny. Hands off my sats. The golden whale herself is here today. Jenny said, feed the friggin' ducks, and sent $5. A yellow fiat zap over in Rumble. Thank you, Jenny. Feed the friggin' duck, she says. We also had Sharon B, who gifted a subscription to 88 sats on Rumble. And it looks like Eatable Zebra Stripes was the recipient of that one. And also Chuck. Okay, I got to write these down. We got Jenny Legendary with $5 for the ducks. We got Sharon B, the lovely Sharon B, giving out memberships. Thank you, Sharon. One Memby, and we got Chuck. Chuck with a Memby. Chuck with a couple Satoshi hat tricks lately. He might be the hat trick leader, the point leader in the Bitcoin Hockey League. Chuck's been scoring. He's been setting people up, and he's been fighting. He's been getting in some scraps, some Donnybrooks, some Tillies. And there's a lot of like slang, especially around the hockey circles. A lot of slang. Like one of my buddies, I swear to God, he could have his own dictionary. Like the words that he says that you've never heard before. It's like going to like the East Coast. It's like going to the East Coast, like Halifax, PEI, Newfoundland especially. They like, even though they're speaking English, they have like kind of their own language almost. And my buddy's the same way. Like he could actually have his own dictionary. The words that he says are just, you wonder where that came from. How does somebody turn what he was trying to say into what he did say? But fights in hockey, there's a lot of different nicknames or slangs for them. So some of the best nicknames are around fight, like Donnybrook, a Tilly, a scrap, a tussle. There's a lot of good slang around fighting. So anyways, thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Jenny. You're all legends in my mind. You are, even though Jenny's the only one with legendary in her name, you're all legends to me. Well, look who's back inside. How'd you get back in here? Where'd you come from? Where'd you come from? Sats and Sunsets. There he is right there, the mighty duck. Good morning, Sats and Sunsets. Praetorian's here, the Guardian, the Smith. Chuck says, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chuck. Plural's here. Plural, reason to believe. Rock and roll, baby. LITF, living the future, Bailey. Duncan is here. Good morning, Duncan. Mark, Bob, Stewie, the boys. Good morning. Stells Row. Robert's here. Good morning, Robert. Chuck's quacking. Sketchucation, Rich. Good morning. Scotty boy. Hisamits. Says, George, do you have a webcam dedicated to filming the backyard ducks? No. That, my friend, is a YouTube video. That is a YouTube video with a lot of people like it. 2.3 million views. Ducks quacking on a river in the forest. Because if you saw the rivers around here, you would not, oh my God, you should see the freaking water around here. It is absolutely bananas right now. There's I went into town yesterday to see what my grandma's house was like. And not good. Not good. We were hauling furniture out of there. We were hauling the carpets. There was probably about, I don't know, the whole basement flooded. Same with my parents. My brother's been pumping water for like the last 48 hours. But I'll see if I can find a picture of the golf course. Flooding as bad as I've ever seen it, the mayor said. All the roads are closed around here. The town that I'm in is under a state of emergency. The city that my brother and parents are in is in a state of emergency. I wish I could find that picture. It was nuts. Like there's cart sheds, golf cart sheds. The water was up to like above the door. That's how much water there was, because the rivers are overflowing and there's nowhere for the water to go. So it's scary here right now. It really is. And we've been pretty thankful in my exact location here that we haven't had any water in the basement or anything yet. But yeah, flood alert right now in western Manitoba. It's pretty crazy. I think one of the towns up north, I'm pretty sure they evacuated yesterday. They had to evacuate the town. by 3 p.m. I got a message on my phone. Pretty crazy. But yeah, that's not my webcam. Look at this. Ginger said, my mother-in-law is an East Coast dictionary for me. She writes down every odd word I apparently say. Yeah, so Ginger gets it. Okay, what else we got here? Robert says, when you say Zapstream, what do you mean? So you can go to, sorry, people. I haven't even checked on Zapstream. You can go to, and we should share it on Nostr too. Give me a second. We should tell Nostr we're live. But yeah, Robert, Zapstream is a Nostr client. So I stream on Zapstream, and so you could watch me on Nostr. How come it's not showing up for me here? And Amethyst has been pretty shitty lately. TBH. Amethyst has been pretty shitty lately. That used to be my go-to client on Nostr, but it just doesn't work very well anymore. I don't know what happened. I updated it one day, and it's never been the same. Curated. I guess I can't share it. Huh. Well, maybe it'll show up. Who knows? But anyways, that's where people can go. It's kind of like a YouTube or a Rumble. Same idea. It's a video streaming platform called Zapstream, but it's nice because nobody can, just like Nostr, nobody can shut you off. Nobody can ban you. And you can zap sats over there easily. So if you go to, I'll just show you here quick. We can ban you. So this is the Zapstream. I guess I got to update the name here. That's kind of unfortunate thing about Zapstream is you have to change the title after you begin the video, which is kind of weird. But anyways, so yeah, you can see here, people can zap directly on here, which is kind of cool. Instead of having to use like the QR code or like the RISFul address, type it in manually. Like Chuck zapped an espresso today. Thank you, Chuck. Write that one down. Espresso. Thank you, Chuck. Espresso with some cinnamon. A couple extra sprinkles on there. Sats and Sunsets zapping for show 54 today. And he's gone. Thanks for popping by, Sats and Sunsets. Thanks for the zaps. Scotty Boy. Matt FRL. Thoughty to Hottie. That's right. And big zap this morning from the Bitcoin Golf Pro over on Nostr. 420. Nice number. And I absolutely love this frickin' symbol. There was so much controversy over this on Nostr like 6 months to a year ago. Everyone was so mad that we're using the Bitcoin logo for sats. But that just looks so good to me. And no, that's the thing too, is like but by the time everybody shows up in Bitcoin, by the time people know that that's like the symbol for Bitcoin, nobody's going to be there's going to be no Bitcoin numbers. Like no one's going to pay anybody 1 Bitcoin for anything. So why would we use this B for Bitcoin when nobody's going to be making payments in Bitcoin? It's all going to be Satoshis. It already is. Nobody pays in Bitcoin unless you're buying a house. But eventually a house won't even cost 1 Bitcoin. So that B there, even though it's for Bitcoin, that's what a Satoshi is. It's a unit of Bitcoin, Satoshi. We don't need any other stupid symbols. The B is good. And just like dollars, if you were putting like 5 cents, you wouldn't put like a cent sign there. Nobody does that. So why would we do that with Satoshis? Why would we have 2 different things? If you're putting cents or dollars, you use a dollar sign. And if you're using Bitcoin or sats, you use the Bitcoin sign. It's Bitcoin. So I love that. And this is, so basically what you could do, and I can even zap comments on here myself. Like I could zap, I believe, Bitcoin Golf Pro. I think yeah, you press that and then it prompts you to zap. Or you can zap the show here and then it just gives you an amount. You could do 69, you could do 121, you could do 420, you could do 210,000. You click zap and then it brings up your QR code there. So it's pretty cool. And that's what we have been that's what we've been missing. That's what I've been so angry about for the last freaking month, because we haven't been able to use it. It's been down for me. But all of a sudden we're back. Suddenly we're back. Okay, so continue. What should we have for a goal today? Episode 500. How was everybody's Canada Day? It wasn't very good here. We were freaking pumping water all day, and then too tired to do anything else. Maria 2500. I saw Maria sent in a zap this morning. Thank you, Maria. She sent in a shot of espresso as well. So let me share this with Noster. We are live. Here we go. Let's check. I'm pretty sure Maria sent in a shot of espresso this morning. A Maria 5K zap. Just going to double check though. Senior Gringo Poppy says, sup, dorks. What's up, dork? How come I don't see Jenny? I didn't see Jenny before. Oh, maybe because she sent that $5. That's why it doesn't show up on here. Let the 10-year bull run begin. See, I wouldn't discount that either. I really wouldn't. Wow. Okay. We got a couple here to report. So yes, Maria sent in a shot of espresso this morning. Chuck did. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Maria. Moravian. We have Maria. We have Moravian. Sent in a double shot this morning. Thank you, Moravian. Very much. That was on, that was just to the regular address, so not on Noster. So thank you very much, Moravian. Mark sent in a Mark zap as well. Said, happy Thursday. And that's it. Happy Thursday. And we got a big one from Jenny. Jenny Legendary. She sent in a Jenny zap. I'm going to call that one the Jenny zap because she deserves it. It is double 2.5 shots of espresso. Jenny. Thank you, Jenny. So Jenny is a membership away from Satoshi Hattrick. Do we want to see the video? Put some peer pressure on Jenny to buy a membership, or she might have already done it. She might have already done it, and I just haven't seen it yet. Sharon B, there it is, gifted to Eatable Zebra. Sharon B says, good morning, Duckers. Good morning, Sharon B. Everybody's excited to see Sharon B in the chat today. Chuck got another memby, it looks like. Chuck with a dog now on his profile picture. What is the... It's a nice looking dog. Nice looking woofer. What's the name of the dog, Chuck? What's the name of your dog? I love me some dogs. Is there anything better than a dog? I don't think so. I don't think so. Neo Geo says, what's up, Sat Stackers? What's up, Neo? We're pumping today. Plebinator says Bitcoin will bottom 36K in October. A lot of people feel that way. Matt says, for the best takes on the Fed from a working class point of view, check out the Uneducated Economists channel on YouTube. Live streams only. Nice. Nice. The Uneducated Economists. Live streams only. I like that. Plebinator's calling for a U.S. versus Canada World Cup final. I think there'd be a lot of things that have to go right for that to happen. Look at that, Jenny. There it is. There it is. We got to it. I figured maybe. And it looks like Sharon B got it. So Jenny with a memby, and that is the Satoshi hat trick. Jenny with the Satoshi hat trick today. Let's see it. Should we play it? Have to. Here we go. Jenny with the goal, with the assist, with the fight, the Satoshi. There we go. Wow. I love that Satoshi hat trick. So that is the Fiat Zap, the Big Zap, and the Membi, completing the Satoshi hat trick. Named after the infamous legend, the genius, one of the most amazing gifts to humanity that we've received from our guy Satoshi Nakamoto, but inspired by Gordie Howe. Gordie Howe was a hockey player for the Detroit Red Wings, a legend in his own league, I would say. And so he was a fighter. He was a tough guy. He was a scorer, a setup guy, and a fighter. And so when you had a goal, an assist, and a fight in the game, they called it the Gordie Howe hat trick. So we got a couple different hockey references here on the show, and I figured the Satoshi hat trick was a good addition to that. So thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Jenny, for scoring the Satoshi hat trick today. Big time. Thank you. Feels good to be early. Amen to that. Scotty said, I will buy like a madman if I ever get a job. Scotty, what's your plan? What's your plan? Are you actually retired now? Or are you thinking of doing something? Hope 40K, then of course 200K. Scotty, what's your address? Sharon's looking for it. You should be able to put it in Rumble. You should be able to put your address uninterrupted, uncensored in Rumble. Plural says, feels good that this technology slipped out of the hands of those who seek control, almost like a higher universal power was looking out for humanity's future. That's truly how I feel about it. That's truly how I feel about it. And I mean, maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're wrong. But kind of what we're going to be talking about a little bit today is, the importance of your words and your thoughts. And so if you believe in that, if you believe that Bitcoin, Satoshi, it was given to us by a higher power, a higher universal power, whatever you want to call that, God, I believe that. And there are actually quite a few ties to, I won't say religion, because religion to me is very muddy, very, very, very muddy. And I know that hurts people to hear. I know that hurts their brains and their ears. But religion is very muddy. There's a lot of lies that have been told. And so I do think that, whatever you want to call it, the higher power, God, the creator, I do believe that, everything is what it's supposed to be. Everything is perfect just as it is today. Even though some people don't agree with what's going on, even though people think that we've kind of gone off the deep end, this is the world right now is a combination of, the choices that we've all made, the knowledge that we all have, the access that we've been given as of now. We've made the best of it, I think. And, for Bitcoin to come along, we had to go through a lot of bad things, a lot of dark days, like we have in these last 100 and some years, ever since 1913. And I mean, arguably longer than that. But there was a period of time in the 1800s when the world was, or this Western world anyways, was absolutely thriving. And then all of a sudden we decided that it was a good idea to start giving the small group of people the ability to create money. And, it's really interesting to me where we are today, because like I said, from most people's perspective, things have never been worse. Things are only going to get worse. They don't see any sort of hope or light down the road. And I would say that that's like the consensus of the average person right now. And it's sad. It's really sad to see. But, when I look on YouTube, when I listen to podcasts, when I go onto Instagram, I'm seeing a shift right now. I'm seeing a major shift, and it could just be my algorithm, but really your algorithm is just a reflection of you. and your world. So nobody's intentionally feeding me these things. Instagram's not saying, hey, show Jor this video, show Jor this video. It's like they want to keep your attention. That's what Instagram wants. And so if I watch a video to the end, Instagram, without knowing what the videos are, they're probably going to show me another video like that because they want to keep me on the app. They want to keep my attention. My attention is very valuable to them. But my point is that I'm seeing all these different videos from thousands of different people all around the world who are speaking the same language as this, who do actually have hope for the future, who do understand that we're going through a transition right now and a shift of consciousness. And there's more and more people every single day in that state. And once you get there, you don't go backwards. Once you unplug yourself from the matrix, once you can look on from the outside and see what the matrix is, you never go back to that world. You can kind of tiptoe in there once in a while. You know, you might spend some days, some hours, some weeks even in it. But for the most part, you're on your way out of that system, out of the matrix. And I just love the analogy of the bridge from the old world to the new world. And most people are still on the bridge. They kind of go backwards some days towards the old world, but they keep moving forward because they understand now what the old world is, and they do not want to live there anymore. And they're not going back under any circumstances. They might take a few steps back, but they're never going back there. And that's why I love that analogy so much, because you can be on a bridge and you can be there for a while. You can stop and take some pictures. You can go backwards a little bit, but you're going one way. When you're crossing a bridge, you're going one way. You're not going halfway across the bridge and then coming back. If you're on a bridge, you're traveling on a bridge, you're going to the other side of it. Some people take a little bit longer. Some people take a few steps back, but everybody who's going on that bridge is going across it. And they're never going back. I'd say when they get to the other side of that, to the new world, to a world that's at a different level of vibration, of consciousness, of reality. I think that's what it is. It's a reality. People are seeing the world as an illusion, and they're looking for some sort of truth. And to me, that's what Bitcoin does. Is it really anchors us to truth. Why? Because you can look at the mempool and you can look at every transaction that's ever happened in Bitcoin's history. How could you get more transparent than that? How could you have a higher level of truth than that? And transparency and fairness. And that's what people want. And that's what Bitcoin is. And so that's the thing for me, is like when we're talking about the bottoms and the cycles, it's like, I understand that once you are on that bridge, you're not going backwards. And the more people that cross that bridge, the higher the floor goes. Like, you notice how nobody's calling for us to go back to 15K again. And that's what happened last cycle. And why is that? It's not just because they printed more units. It's because more people have a deeper understanding of what Bitcoin is, and they want to store their time and energy in Bitcoin. So the floor is constantly going to be raised forever. And that's what you have to understand. Why is it going to be raised forever? Because more and more people are crossing that bridge. More and more people are wanting truth and transparency and honesty and fairness. More people want that. That's what everybody's looking for right now. And that's what Bitcoin is. And so as more people cross that bridge to the new world on a Bitcoin standard, they look through a Bitcoin lens. They don't come back. And if they never come back, then who's selling? How would the floor come back down? If they understand that, they're holding on to those units. They're trying to get more of those units. And when more people are trying to get more units of a fixed supply, it goes up forever. That to me is the most important concept in Bitcoin to understand. And there's a reason why I talk about it so much, because it's objective. It's math. And you can't argue that. You can't argue that. And you might say, well, Jor, what if people stop carrying Bitcoin? What if people want to go back to the old world? If anybody does, there's going to be like a handful of them. How many people do you know that have ever gone into Bitcoin have seen Bitcoin for what it is, and then just decided, you know what? Not for me. Not for me. There's a lot of people who buy Bitcoin and then panic because they don't know what they're holding, or they think that they're smart and cashed out for a 20% gain. A lot of people like that. There will be a lot of people like that forever. And the other thing too that I was thinking about the other day is with Bitcoin and with what's happening here. Yeah, we didn't even talk about this yesterday. And it was probably the biggest news to me in Bitcoin. Let me show you something here. And I don't want to shit on anybody. Here because I love these guys. I watch the majority of these shows every time they're on. But this is just a good example. This is a good example of kind of what I've been talking about here. But this was the video here from the BTC. What are they called? The BitChat? Sats chats? But it says Trump's $50 million. Oh, I got to sneeze.
All right, everybody, get in here. So,
that was quick reaction time. That might have been that was ninja quick. So, anyways, the point that I want to make here is I don't know if this is just clickbait or whatever, but the title of this video is Trump's $50 million Bitcoin storage cold storage move that nobody saw coming. And it's funny to me because everybody's been talking about all the trades and the profits that Trump made. He had to declare some form that, gave this information away, but it showed that he had $50 million worth of Bitcoin in cold storage. And nobody's talking about that. And the title of this video says that nobody saw coming. I don't know about that, because if you watch the speech that Donald Trump gave in Nashville in 2024, a lot of people gave him shit for it. They're like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand Bitcoin. He's just pandering to Bitcoiners to try and win votes. But if you actually listen to the things that he talked about, and we've talked about it many times here on the streams, but he was talking about self-custody, and he was talking about sovereignty and what Bitcoin gives you, the abilities, the superpowers that Bitcoin gives you. He called Bitcoiners highly intelligent people. He spoke of energy. He talked about his uncle, John Trump, his relationships with MIT, with Tesla, how we need more energy, and how if US wants to be the crypto or the Bitcoin capital of the world, they need more energy, because he understands. And even before he got into office, he was having conversations with miners, Riot, CleanSpark. Before he was president, he was having meetings with these companies because he understands what's happening here. I know most people won't admit that. They think he's an idiot and a dipshit and a bigot or whatever you want to call it. A lot of people just hate Trump, but he's not stupid. He's not who people think that he is. And I don't agree with everything that he does and says. And I think that, if you do, then you're probably on the flip side of Trump derangement syndrome. But you can find the gray there, and you can observe based on his actions, and words, that he has a pretty clear idea of what's going on here. He's a real estate guy. And he says a lot of things. But his main job and what he's done for the last 10 years is cause as much chaos as possible. And he's done a pretty good job of that. I don't think anybody would disagree with me there. But it's like, nobody saw that coming. Trump's talked about cold storage. He's talked about self-custody. He's talked about the sovereignty that brings. He didn't think it in his head or tell somebody in a private conversation. He said these words at the Nashville conference in 2024. It's just that most people have this lens against him that they don't actually hear what he's saying because they hate him so much. So, I mean, if that's not an indicator of like, you know, what's coming here, $50 million worth of Bitcoin in cold storage, not on Coinbase, not an ETF, not strategy shares, $50 million worth of Bitcoin in cold storage, in self-custody. What else do you need to know? And that's why I say, like, it doesn't matter. We're at 60, might go down to 40, we might not. We might go to 200. It doesn't matter. These are all rounding errors. These are all rounding errors if you have a long enough time frame on what's happening here. Doesn't matter. And that's why you buy every day. That's why I tell people, just buy every day. Buy every day with the money that you don't need for a while. Like that's literally your savings. That's your family's generational wealth. Do you really care that it dropped 5% in a day or it went up 5% in a day if you're here for the rest of your life? Does it matter? No, that's the answer. It doesn't matter. Sorry, I'm behind on chats today. Jake's here. Good morning, Jake. Robert says, like Primal, go to Jor. I don't really like Primal either. I've kind of been struggling with Nostr lately. I can't find a client that I like. I can't find a client that I like. What happened here? What happened to my Nostr screen? I don't know. All my chats disappeared. Is there even a Satoshi icon? No, I mean, there was a lot of people who were, you know, trying to make one, but they never got to it for sats. There was like the 3 lines and then like a line going the other way, 3 horizontal lines kind of slanted and then 1 vertical. Anyways, I guess our Zap stream stopped here, or is it? I don't know. Can't see it anymore. I don't see Zapstream in the App Store. Well, I think there actually is an app for Zapstream, but you could also just use the website zap.stream. Zap.stream. I thought I had an app, but maybe that's only on Android. I don't know if it's in the App Store. Jenny says we just keep circling the membies. Yeah, there's a few people who buy the memberships and then they ended up getting it from somebody else. Look at this. We got a couple. Okay, Zapstream's back. We got Duncan. Duncan with a big one. He sent 2 DCAs today. Holy cow. Thank you, Duncan. I don't know what the number of that would be. 97. What's 97 divided by 2? 48.5. 4824. 4824. Is that right? Is that good math? 9748 divided by 2. 9748 divided by 2. Is that right math? 48? Oh, no, I was wrong. I forgot to put the 0.5 in there. That's why. 4874, not 4824. I was close. I forgot to add the 0.5 in there. Yeah, you got to do math sometimes, you know. You got to keep the brain sharp as the world tries to keep you dumb. Scotty says, so you only listen to my songs, don't even read the AI generated descriptions. Baby May. Baby May. I love that name, May. M-A-E. Baby May. Got to be a girl. The only thing better than dogs is 2 dogs. True. Scotty's thinking of doing something, just not rushing into it. That's a good call. Doing nothing is tiring. I get that. I get that, man. The truth will prevail. The truth will prevail. And the truth has always prevailed. But the cool thing about this specific time in history is that we've never had a way to verify it. And that's what bothers me about religion is that, again, Bitcoiners are well aware. Bitcoiners more than anybody else are aware that we've been lied to about everything, not 99.9% of things. We've been lied to about everything for a lot of years. And they did a very good job of it. They had the school system to lie to people. They had the media, all the media outlets to hide the truth for a lot of years. They controlled everything. And I heard a very interesting framing the other day. And it basically said that 90% of people are the herd, 90% of people. 5% of people are the ones who are truth seekers. So I would say that number is growing too. And kind of, again, what we've been talking about here, that percentage will never go down. It will only go up. Just like Bitcoiners. I'd say Bitcoiners and truth seekers, those two categories there, the numbers will never go backwards. They will only go up. But just for simplicity here, so we got 90% sheep, the herd. Not that they're bad people. They just don't think for themselves, and they don't know that they're not thinking for themselves. That's 90% of the population. That's a pretty high amount. So you got 5% truth seekers, Bitcoiners I would put in that category too, even though only like a small fraction of that 5% understand Bitcoin. And then you have the 1% who want to control the 90%. So what is that? 95, 1%. And then the other 4% are the ones who do their work for them, who go to work for the 1%. And they basically, their whole job is to convince the 90% of what the world is, to lie to them all day. The media, the governments, the politicians, the school systems. That's the 4% of people who lie to the 90%. They might know what they're doing. They might not. Doesn't matter. They're paid by the 1% to lie to the rest of the population. But the sinister part of it, and this is kind of what they mentioned, is like the 4% also, they're training the 90%, not only lying to them, but they're training the 90% to be against the 5%. They make the 5% seem like crazy people or conspiracy theorists. So then they automatically discredit anything that comes from them. And you see this in the form of like scientific papers and professors at universities and giving their opinions and fact checkers. Their whole job, that 4% of the liars, their whole job is to keep the 90% of people in the dark. That's what they exist to do. But again, kind of my theory here and kind of what Benjamin or Ben's saying here is like that 5% is going to grow. And I don't know what the number is. It's not a very high percentage of the population. It might be like 10, 15% for a full-on, it might even not be that high, for a full-on freaking revolution. And again, I just think that no matter what throughout history, even when we've gone through these cycles before of like revolutions, but it always comes back. It always goes back to the 1%. They find new ways to lie to people. They find new avenues and distribution channels, and they win back the 90%. But that was before Bitcoin. I just don't think that they have that ability to do that anymore, unless something goes terribly wrong here. I just don't think we're ever going back to that world of lies and of evil. And the root of the problem. That's the thing that bothers me about like the core and knots and all that bullshit. It's like they're trying to keep things off the blockchain, like images off the blockchain. Why don't we just put all of our attention towards stopping those images from being taken in the first place? Because the longer we fight about Bitcoin, the longer fiat continues to be the world reserve currency. The longer a group of people have the ability to create units and pay for these things to happen. That, like, we're trying to put band-aids on things instead of looking at the core issue of this whole thing. So right or wrong, I don't care. It's just we need to be working together to make that system obsolete. And what we're doing is we're fighting and we're delaying that. And so every day that we delay it is an opportunity for the 1% to continue printing. They can't print Bitcoin. So I just wish that people could see that angle of it. And I think there'd be a whole less bullshit going on in Bitcoin. Focus on the core of the problem, not band-aids of it, not trying to make little wee fixes to it. Because if somebody wants to do something bad, they're going to find a way to do it. Like, you have to understand that. That's why gun laws don't work either here in Canada. Like, gun laws in Canada basically prevent honest people from being able to defend themselves. It's not going to stop a criminal or a gangster from buying a gun illegally and shooting somebody with that. Gun laws themselves, they only hurt honest people. And so it's the same as Bitcoin. If somebody wants to do something stupid or, do something wrong or whatever that is, they're going to find a way to do it. They just are. But if you take away their ability, if you make that system obsolete, it takes all their power away from being able to print money. And that's what funds all this shit. That's what funds all this shit. Again, do you think that these politicians are paying for their whatever they're doing, their parties? You know what I'm saying here. Do you think that they're paying for that with their pension, their salary? Do you think that they're e-transferring somebody for those? Or do you think that they're running it through these foundations or NGOs, non-government organizations, and using it to do that? So the longer that system continues, the longer the shit's going to happen. It doesn't matter if I'm storing a copy of it or not. It's still happening. It's still happening as long as the fiat system exists. So I just wish that we would focus more on that part of it as opposed to these fucking nerds fighting with each other over op return limits. Like, it's nauseating to me, man. It's nauseating. And the longer the fighting continues, the longer fiat fucking it makes me actually sick to my stomach. Pulled a tick off Bob last night. Oh man. I guess, well, you've been out in the woods, Mark. You've been camping this summer. I was gonna say, every time we take freaking Arnie for a walk, man, there's probably 6 or 7 ticks on him. But he wanders into the bush and he goes in the long grass. So it's nice though, because he's white, so you can see him. But he's got long hair, so you don't see all of them. But that's another thing I hate is I don't need to get into that. Paradigm says, it's way too hot in Canada. I'm going to head out to Timmy's to get an iced cappuccino. Cheers. Is it hot there? It sure is not hot here. Time to make a Jorkline. Jorster. Jorster. Plastic says, hello, Jor. Good morning, Plastic. Plastic, can you give me another name for you? Can you give me another name for you? Because I just think every time I say Plastic, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm talking to a human being. Plastic. Plastic. Give me your nickname or something. You don't have to give me your government issued name. The Gov. But what can I call you? What can I call you? Young Bertus. Hey, this is a shout out to everybody on Rumble today. I want, if you're watching this and if you haven't said anything in the chat today, just say hello. Say hello. You don't have to come up with anything insightful, or you don't have to, cause any drama. Just say hello. Because Rumble measures how many unique chatters we have. And I think they bumped up the number. It used to be 50. I'm pretty sure they bumped up the number this month to 75. So just if you're watching this on Rumble and you're not a big chatter like Young Bertus here, just say hi, or just put a Bitcoin logo in there or something. That would be a very easy way to help support the channel here. I appreciate it. But Young Bertus says, in the Bitcoin future, will we still use coupons, point cards, and Canadian Tire money? Will there be discounts and half-off sales, or will everything be super simplified? That's a good question, man. That's a whole episode, I think. In the future, will we still use coupons? Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. Like that, it's not going to be that much of a different world. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. It'll be different from like a very high level view. And I think that that's why so many people struggle with seeing what's happening here, because it is very high level. You have to understand like the components of it. You have to understand how the fiat system works first before you can understand how Bitcoin fixes it. And from a macro level, like a very bird's eye view, it will look much different because the prices of things over time, instead of going up in a straight line, like real estate and the stock market, things are actually going to come down. In Bitcoin terms, things are actually going to come down. But other than that, like I don't see any real changes to like the day-to-day micro how people interact, because it's just like whether you're paying somebody in US dollars or you're paying somebody in Bitcoin, it's just value. It's just a way to transfer value to somebody else. And so businesses, there'll be a couple things that change, but businesses overall, like they're still going to have margins, right? They're still going to have to figure out what their margins are. If we're measuring things in sats and they create a product and cost them, 40,000 sats to create, they're going to charge 70,000 for it or 60,000 sats for it. Like there's still going to be the same business dynamics and economics. It's just going to be on a different standard, and the prices are actually going to come down over time. So the cost of their inputs might actually come down to 35, and so therefore they can charge 65,000 or 60,000. But that's really like, I think coupons, points cards, Canadian Tire money, there's still going to be like loyalty programs because that's, it's a way to collect data. It's a way to incentivize people to come to your store. That doesn't really have anything to do with like the dollar itself. But I do think that the businesses who aren't managing things properly are going to be wiped out. Like there's going to be a bunch of different businesses in the future. I really think like this is just my theory here, but I really think that like the big conglomerates, the big, all these companies and organizations that are trying to like centralize and become bigger and more powerful, I think that they're actually doing themselves a huge disservice, because I think that they're going to be too fat, too slow, and not able to adapt to what's coming here. Meanwhile, you have a company like Tether, who has like a very small group of employees, but they know what they're doing. And they can max, like their profit for employee is like better than any other company on the planet. Like that's a company that I would bet on. TD Bank, I would not bet on. Walmart, I would not bet on. Because here's the other thing too. I think that the way that we do things like the coupons, the point cards, this kind of stuff, loyalty programs, they won't change. But I think consumer behaviors are going to change for the most part. It's going to be really weird. Like it's going to be really, really weird because again, we're in the middle of this right now. We're in the middle of, and it's been going on for a long time, but we're in the middle of this transition from the old world to the new world. And that transition, it's not just like you're measuring things differently. You're using a different a unit of account. There's a lot of things. You see the world differently. You want to put better ingredients into your body. You don't want the cheapest products that were made in China. You actually want quality goods. If that's the case, if there's only so many Bitcoin, then you can't just willy-nilly buy things and that they're going to last 6 months. You actually have to put some thought into what you're buying. There's going to be a major focus on quality, I think. And this isn't just something you snap your fingers and we move to a Bitcoin standard. All this happens. This is like one person at a time, one person stepping onto the bridge and moving their way across it at a time. So I don't think like the way that, because that's what these things are, like coupons, points cards, Canadian Tire money. Those are ways that businesses find customers. It's like a way of keeping customers. That won't change on a Bitcoin standard. But some of these companies who offer these things, they might go away because they're not selling a product or a service that people actually value. And I really think that, whether you point at like telephone companies or you point at airlines or you point at like the CBC here in Canada, like media corporations, like they're all gone. They're all gone. Why? Because the only reason why they're still in business is because the government gives them money. They're the government subsidies. Without these government subsidies, a lot of these big corporations, they'd be long gone. But just like the real estate market, like the Canadian government buying up condos to keep the prices up, just like the stock market in the US, the plunge protection program, the government only has the ability to do this stuff and provide subsidies. They basically get to pick the winners. It's so messed up. It's so messed up. But when you take away the power to print money and to issue debt and to take on more debt from the Federal Reserve, fucking weird concept, to give out to people. And, there's a lot of shit that happens here in Canada, like food programs and a lot of payments to people who don't necessarily deserve it. If, in my opinion, that ends. So then when that ends, it's like, okay, well, quality of things will rise to the top. Coca-Cola, even though it costs, say $5 at some point in the future, that's going to be the equivalent of like 5 sats. So that old world, they're still like seeing prices go up in their currency. If they're getting like government funding or sort of payments like that, they're going to see things continue to go up. But because they're forced to create so many units just to keep that whole illusion going, that means that Bitcoin on the other side of that is going to be worth tens of millions of dollars per coin. So the old world is going to continue to get more expensive. The new world is going to continue to get cheaper, and it's going to be wild to see them both play out in real time. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch play out in real time. But yeah, there'll still be discounts, half off sales. Why not? There's still going to be margins on things, and businesses are going to still have like peak seasons. It's just like the businesses will be different. The products and services will be different, at least between the two worlds. Because if you think about like one last thing I'm going to say here, let's say that there's like a farmer out there, and you compare like Coca-Cola, which is made in a factory, mass produced, and you compare a ribeye steak. Those are two different things. Even though you can go to the grocery store and buy both of them, these are two different things. And even like a steak that's created from like a feedlot, that's a different steak that's created in like a pasture, a grass-fed pasture. Those are two different things. Just like fiat and Bitcoin are two different things. And that's really the whole split here. We're going to see like a ribeye steak from a grass-fed pasture is going to be so unaffordable to people who are still living in the old world. Because they're going to survive on sludge. They're going to survive on the Coca-Colas, the mass-produced 3D printed food, because they're just not going to have the ability to buy the real stuff. And, eventually over time, maybe that changes. But like in the short term, that's definitely what's going to play out, is that the people who are in Bitcoin, they're the only ones that are going to be able to afford quality ingredients, because it's just going to be so expensive in comparison to the sludge, to the mass-produced bullshit. And they've been able to kind of, keep it down and manage it and keep the inflation down so that people don't revolt. But they're done. They're done. Game's over. The game's over. They're going to keep playing it, and people are going to keep going along with it for a very long time. But that's the whole split here that I'm talking about. Anyways, Plebinator, do you still support Start9 and their support for the fork of BIP10? Of course. Do I agree with them? I don't know. That's my opinion. That's up to me. But Start9 makes great products. They've done a lot of great things for Bitcoin, for sovereignty, for the freedom tech. They literally have a device here that you could pay $1,200 for, or you could download for free. Like, how could you ever not like a company that does that? So Do I agree with them? That's a different story. And it doesn't really matter. I'm just one node in the network. And I think that people shouldn't really sway one side or the other. That's the thing, is like people love Matthew Cratter. So they're like, oh, well, I have to love BIP 110, or I love Jack Dorsey, so I'm going to support, the original Bitcoin. You just gotta form your own conclusions here on things. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin, is it's very difficult to change by design. And that's what, when I was thinking about this morning, I'm like, people really thought about this right now, like deeply thought on it. Do we really need to change anything in Bitcoin right now in terms of how the network works? Personally, I don't think that we do. I don't think that there's any real risk of making such a dramatic change to Bitcoin. I just don't see it. And again, I could be missing something here. I could be wrong about that. But from my eyes here, my view, I just don't see anything that's like worth changing Bitcoin. It's such a, and the worst thing, I think, that whether or not I agree with it, it doesn't matter. Whatever's going to play out is going to play out. And I just think that there's going to be a lot of people who are hurt by this whole thing that happens. A lot of people are going to be on the wrong side of this. And then they're going to be mad at Bitcoin, or they're not going to hold Bitcoin anymore. They're going to hold this new coin. And I don't know, man. I just don't like my vision of it, of what's going to play out here. I just don't love the idea of. And then there's going to be less Bitcoiners. And then, it's like, what are we doing? All this for nothing? So, I mean, that's a loaded question for one. But yeah, I definitely still support Start9. I love Start9. I love Matt Hill. Do I have to agree with him on everything? No. And that's okay. It's the whole fucking point. It's the whole point. Do I think he's a bad actor? No, not at all. He might just have a different view than I have. His perspective is different. And he might be right. I might be wrong. But that's okay. Sincere. That's one of my main missions on this channel is to get people to see more gray in the world. We need more gray, less black and white. If you don't agree with one thing this guy does, you're just going to boycott his whole life. That's how we got to this spot, I think. Is just there's too much black and white. It's okay to be somewhere in the middle on things. It is. Even though nobody's going to tell you that, because nobody profits from that. Nobody profits from that. It's a good way to think about it. Nobody profits from you being in the middle. Okay. We got 34 people over in Rumble right now. And we've probably only had half the people in the chat. Shout out to Young Burtis. That's a new, a rare commenter there, but it sparked a good conversation. Very good conversation there. So shout out to our guy, Young Burtis. Okay, Andre invests and stacks sats, Zap 3013. And he said the fiat game is over and they don't see the score. A frickin' men to that, man. That's exactly right. That's exactly what I'm saying here. The fiat game is over and they don't see the score. Bingo. Bingo, bango, bongo. Banks and credit unions are consolidating around me. Yeah, they've been doing the same thing here too for like the last decade, I'd say. My dad was part of a huge merger of like 20 different credit unions. But they're going to kill themselves by doing that. They think that they're gaining more power. They think that they're gaining more power by being bigger, but they're actually killing themselves. And that's the beauty of it, is like the small companies, the individuals, the 2-3 man teams, they're going to be the ones who succeed in the future. The ones who are quick to adapt, the ones who are very agile and flexible and have way less red tape. Think about a credit union who I don't know how many people would be familiar with like the credit unions here. Just give me a second here. I knew I had to sneeze. And I didn't want to freaking miss it. I nailed it last time. I got there in time, but last thing I want to be doing is sneezing on a live stream. But anyways, back to the credit union there. So when you think about it this way, it's like if you had a small, like a credit union, the way that credit unions were when I grew up, there's like every town had a credit union. So the town knew the credit union knew who their customers were. The credit union knew everybody who walked in the door. They had personal relationships with people. And what happened is they started consolidating the credit union. So there'd be like 2 or 3 that would merge into be one new one now. And over the course of the last decade, I've probably seen like 50 different credit unions that used to be individual, now like 2 or 3 credit unions. They all merged into like 2 or 3 of them. But again, if you agree with me in the sense of like agility, flexibility, speed, and ability to react to things quickly is going to be the winners in the future, then those credit unions are toast. Because think about how much red tape there would be in a credit union making up 30 different towns versus a credit union making up one town. If somebody at the one town credit union decided that they wanted to implement something because they saw it coming, they could just make that change in a week. They'd propose it. The board of directors would come in. The members of the credit union would vote, and it's done. Change is made. But you compare that to how it is now, you have to go through 40 different levels of red tape to make any sort of change. So in a world that's changing faster than ever before, wouldn't you want to be able to make change quickly if you needed to? And so that's why I'm saying like these companies that are consolidating and centralizing, all they're doing is killing themselves. Because that worked in the fiat world, that worked in the old world, centralization, but it's not going to work in the new world, decentralization. That's what's going to win. That's why Bitcoin's going to win. And, you know, it's crazy to me because last thing I'll say about this credit union thing. But like I said, I was at my grandma's yesterday and we were taking the carpets out. We were carrying them upstairs. It's amazing. Like small towns are just amazing to me. People were just literally walking down the driveway of her house and walking in to help. I showed up at my grandma's house yesterday and there's 2 people on the porch and I'd never seen them before. Had no idea who they were. And we started talking. And the guy's like, so what do you do? I said, I've been living out here for the last 4 years. I'm her grandson. And he's like, oh, what do you do for work? And I mentioned Bitcoin. As soon as I said Bitcoin, not that he was like, you know, mad or distraught about it. He's just like, he kind of like, you know, backed off. Like his body language was like, oh yeah, Bitcoin. I never understood that. I have no idea what it is, blah, blah, blah. And I told him, I was like, it's a currency. It's basically a global currency that nobody has the ability to print more of. And there's a lot of countries who are struggling with inflation and printing. And he's just still like, yeah, I'll never get it. So this guy was probably like 65 years old. 65 years old. Who holds the wealth of this world right now? That guy. That guy that I was talking to. Because he's one of a billion people just like him. Walks like him, talks like him, thinks like him, has the same amount of money, the majority of the wealth of this world. And that's the problem here. That's the main hang up right now. They're just not willing to learn. He's like, I'll never understand it. Move on with my day. Never think about it again. But does that mean that in 20 years from now, when that guy's 85 now and that his wealth has been passed on to his kids, is it always going to be the case? Or are his kids kind of more up to speed with what's going on here? They're interested in truth and fairness and Bitcoin and decentralization. So just because, that segment of the population doesn't want to understand it, doesn't want to buy into it, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen in the future. You have to understand that. And that's why I think it's absolutely irrelevant to look at the day-to-day and week-to-week price of Bitcoin, because it doesn't matter. It's all a rounding error, because this much of the world's wealth is in Bitcoin right now and understands what Bitcoin is. Not always going to be the case, but that's what it is today. And that's what the reflection of the price of Bitcoin today. And it probably won't change for some time, because that whole shift has to happen. And it's not just going to happen by accident. Like, this is an actual thing that has to play out before. The shitty thing is like their families, a baby boomer like that, their family is going to suffer because of their inability to think. Oh, Bitcoin, I never understood what that is. Instead of being like, oh, a currency that nobody has the ability to print, that the whole globe benefits from? Maybe I should look into that. Maybe I should take all this time that I have in my retirement and look into that for an hour. But those are the customers of the credit union. Those are the people who have, grown in the world into what it is today, because they're the ones who have all the wealth. And when you have wealth, you have influence and you have votes. When you're Gen Z or you're a millennial, you don't have as much. You don't have as much economic power to sway anything. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be the case, because all that wealth has to go somewhere. And I know the governments are trying their best to take the majority of it, but that's why we have these conversations. That's why I do these streams every morning, is to try and just one person at a time. Hey, get that green light on, understand what's going on here. So even if you don't benefit for it, even if you don't benefit from it today, your family's going to benefit from it in 20, 30, 40 years from now. And I mean, if you're not willing to do that, then I don't know what to tell you. We're not eye to eye. We're not on the same vibration here. We are the 0.01%. We're smaller than that, I would say. We're like the 0.00001%. BTC is the best credit union. Yeah, that's that. I mean, there's still going to be credit unions though, right? I think there is. There's always going to be lending. There's always going to be people who need to take credit. It's just going to be on a different measurement system. And the banks aren't going to be able to. Oh, that's another whole thing. That's another whole conversation of the fractional reserve. Think about this, though. Think about this one for a second. I got to go here right away. But think about this one for a second. So we were just talking about the banks, right? We were talking about the credit unions. How many banks that you know of right now hold any Bitcoin? How many banks have you heard of, or that you know of, or that you've seen before that hold Bitcoin? Probably zero is going to be the answer for most people. How many banks exist in this world right now? Quite a few. Quite a few banks exist right now. And if you look at this number right here, this supply number, this is the amount of Bitcoin that are currently sitting in somebody's wallet. Whose mail slot or wallet is this not sitting in? The banks. So basically, like, even if banks, every bank today, and again, think about the centralization there, think about the red tape, think about how slow they are to make decisions. Even if every single one of those banks today decided that they want to start buying Bitcoin, storing Bitcoin on their balance sheet, holding Bitcoin as a reserve. That's what's going to play out here. Like it's only a matter of time before that happens. So let's just say that every bank today decided that they were going to do that. What do they have to get? They could get what? 4% of the total supply? Compare that to like, what do they control now? What do the banks have now in terms of like deposits versus what they can loan out? Fidelity is the only bank that has Bitcoin. Is Fidelity even a bank though? So there's all these banks. Every single bank on the planet still needs to adopt Bitcoin. Where are they going to get it from? I think that too many people spend their time and energy looking at the price, the fiat price of Bitcoin. They don't look at the math on Bitcoin. They don't look at the math. They don't look at the objective reality of just what can play out here. And I mean, that even ties into like the BIP 110 conversation where all those guys are like, well, how's anybody going to run a node in the future? How's anybody going to run a node? Do you really think that people are going to run their own nodes? Like, you have to understand how much time, how many hours have you spent in Bitcoin before you finally started running a node? Most people have spent 0 hours in Bitcoin. Do you know how many hours they still need to spend before they're going to be close to where you are right now? It's not going to happen. The other thing too is like, there's just simply not enough UTXOs to go around. Not everybody's going to have a UTXO mathematically. So it's like, you don't have a UTXO, you don't have any sats in cold storage. What's your incentive to run a node? There isn't one. And really right now, there isn't an incentive to run a node other than if you want privacy or if you want some sort of vote in the network. But people still do it. And I think that the thing about right now is it's like only the weirdos, only the hardcore early adopters are here. And they're the only ones who are willing to put in the time to do that. I just don't think that the average person is going to know what a node is. You know what I mean? Because there's just simply not enough Bitcoin. There's not enough UTXOs for everybody to have. You do the math on it. It's like Jerry talks about all the time. I think the average person is going to have like best case 200,000 sats. But that's best case. The reality is probably going to be like 2,000 sats that anybody will ever have, which I know at this stage sounds crazy, but when you look at the objective math on this and the human population divided by the total number of sats, and not just not the total number of sats, it's the available sats, the ones that aren't in cold storage. Because me, like a lot of people here who watch the show, once those sats get sent to the cold storage wallet, they're not going anywhere. Those sats are no longer on the market. So it doesn't matter how many banks come in or how many governments come in or how many large corporations come in. Those sats are not moving because that's my farmland. I'm not selling that. And it's a different dynamic too than farmland because, big corporations can come in and buy up the land, drive up the prices, drive up the property taxes. That's the old world. But you can't do that in Bitcoin. You got sats and cold storage. There's no property tax on it. There's no benefit to centralizing and consolidating. If you got a UTXO, that's how I think about UTXOs, as like a plot of land. And so every UTXO that I add to my cold storage, that's me buying another plot of land. And there's no borders, there's no geographical limitations in Bitcoin. So that's like the equivalent of me buying 10 acres in Costa Rica, but I can hold it all together in one wallet. And then I can buy 50 acres in Texas and hold it in my wallet. And there's no government policy. There's no property tax. There's no natural disasters that can affect that. People don't understand how powerful that is, but we do. And so again, as more and more people figure this out, as more green lights turn on, more people fighting for the same amount of scarce units, this goes up. And again, it's really important, I believe anyways, to have that mentality. That's the mindset that's going to benefit you. Then you don't get lost in the sauce. You don't get lost in the sauce. You don't panic sell. You don't do stupid shit. When you understand what's going on here, when you understand what you're doing, then you're more likely to be the proper custodian for your family. Okay. Sorry, I missed some. Oh wow, we got a good crew over in Noster. Sorry, Noster. Josh is there. Joshua says I still see Elite Seal is streaming though. So is it Jor and Elite Seal now? I don't know what's going on. Bartertown, New Hampshire. Bartertown, NH. I'm guessing that means New Hampshire. Bartertown says great points. Focus on unity rather than division. I mean, that's the thing is like these people have no ability to stop Bitcoin. So what would you do if you had no ability to stop Bitcoin? If you didn't want it to succeed, but you had no ability to stop it, what would you do? What have they done in the past? They control the media. They control the flow of information. They control the distribution channels. And so they lie to people. They spread all this bullshit about Bitcoin. And, the Epstein stuff, that Epstein created Bitcoin. Anybody who's in Bitcoin and has been in Bitcoin knows that was absolute bullshit. But you ask the average person, they think that that's what actually happened. So they tell lies. But they also use their other strategies, which is divide and conquer. And I really believe that that's what's happening right now in Bitcoin. I believe that this whole thing is just like a way to divide Bitcoiners, divide and conquer. Because when people are fighting over core and knots and BIP 110, then they're not together. They're fighting with each other. They're not moving forward. They're just staying still like this. And it's a hell of a strategy. It's worked through thousands of years. Just tell people that, force people against each other so they don't look at the real issue. They don't look at the core problem. They're just too busy being right, and their ego has to be filled. And I just think that that's what's happening in Bitcoin right now. I think it is a coordinated attack on Bitcoin, and people are falling for it. So to me, it's like, just ask yourself this question. If Bitcoin didn't change, if we did nothing for the next 5 years and the network worked exactly like it does today, in 5 years you woke up, would we be okay? I would say yeah. And I think that if that's the case, then why do we need to change anything? So all this fighting, all this arguing, all this energy we're wasting going back and forth is just slowing our progress down. It's slowing adoption down. It's gonna wreck a bunch of people in August, and they might not come back to Bitcoin for 10 years, and that hurts. That hurts the network, because that's what this thing is. And the more we can work together and realize that and unite against the core problem here, then that's how we win. That's the only way that we win. We're not going to win by having better fucking policy. That's a Band-Aid, man. That's a Band-Aid. The core problem is that these people still have the ability to print money. That's the core problem that nobody really cares about, it seems. Man, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. Bartertown said, unless there's actual harm to address, restitution, etc., then unity is the reparation. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Again, just put yourself in that vantage point of like, if 5 years went on, you time traveled 5 years into July 2nd, 2031, and Bitcoin is exactly how it is today. Would you be okay with that? I would. So it's just like, there's just too, I don't know. Sin said, if you can't beat them, join them, or scratch that. Try to control what's left of them and the new ones to come. That's exactly right, Sin. That's exactly right. They might eventually have to join us. They might have to. I'm guessing they will, but they're gonna fight like hell to not, Because just imagine that power. None of us can comprehend that. None of us can comprehend that. And the numbers that they throw out, the millions and billions and trillions of dollars that they throw out of giving over here and giving to this or printing this or raising the debt limit by this. We can't comprehend these numbers. But just imagine the power that you would have if you could print money. Imagine the power that you would have. Just take a second here. Just imagine that for one day, you had the ability to print as much money as you wanted to. Unlimited amount. You had no accountability. You had no transparency. You had no audits. Nobody to say that you can or can't. Nobody knows how much you printed. Just imagine that power for one day. Now times that by 365 times 113. That's what we're fighting against. That's what they don't want to give up. Could you blame them? I don't. But Bitcoin takes that power away. Bitcoin takes away humans' ability to print money. And when you take that away, the whole world changes. The whole world heals. Every single person, every single organism probably on this planet benefits from being on a sound money standard. And there's no sounder money than Bitcoin. And so it's important. I know you want to we're trained to be against each other. You have to, if you don't like images on the blockchain, you have to put BIP 110 in your fucking profile. That's how we're trained. But you just have to understand that the root of the problem, that's the core or not, the BIP 110, that's not going to solve the root of the problem here. Us working together, us making that system obsolete, us spreading adoption, that's what's going to get rid of that system. That's what's going to fix the core root of this issue. Send Easy, look at this. 188 Sats membership. Who got it? Some lucky person is going to get the digital Homestead course for a whole month. They're going to get to watch all 8 episodes on YouTube. Thanks to Send Easy. Thank you, Sin. Appreciate that, man. Send Easy with Memby. Okay, so we got oh, look at this. Look at this. Chuck with $3 with a hat trick today. Is that back-to-back hat tricks, Chuck? I guess we're going to need something for that too. Good morning, Bitcoin Barber. Okay, Chuck with the second Satoshi hat trick of the day. Here we go. So we got Chuck and we had Jenny with the hat tricks today. What a big scoring event today. Big scoring game. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Jenny. And I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything else here. Oh, yeah, I got to hit the road, folks. I'm golfing today. It is our men's night here. So I'm going to be traveling. Okay. So what should we do here? Did I miss anything? I had more to talk about, but I feel like I've talked enough today. You guys are probably tired. Hey, look at that. What is that? Oh, no, never mind. Okay. Did we even get to the blockchain or the frickin' mempool today? No. Man, how do you talk for 2 hours and not even look at the mempool? So the block height today is 956,370. The time in Bitcoin, 956,370. And we spent the whole frickin' show talking about the truth, Bitcoin representing truth and reality. And you can check for yourself. That's a cool thing. Is it's all transparent. You click on a block. Luxor won this block 956,370. They won the timestamp was 7 minutes ago. The hash, which is what connects one block to the last and the next. You can see all the fees, how much the miners made, the subsidy, which is 3.125 plus the fees of 8 million sats. They had a good block. Average fee of 7 sats per VByte or 60 cents per transaction. or sorry, per V-byte. No, would that be? Yeah. So that'd be one transaction based on average native SegWit transactions of 140 V-bytes. I did not know that. I didn't know that the average SegWit transaction was 140 V-bytes. I've never seen that before. Man, it's crazy. It's crazy to me. And I even said that yesterday, that guy I was talking to about Bitcoins. Like, that's, I'm sure that's he's like, I'm sure that's an interesting thing to be in. I'm like, you're damn right it is. I've been literally for 5 years, 24/7 thinking about Bitcoin and trying to learn Bitcoin. And every day I'm learning new things. And it's just a good reminder of like how far we are ahead of the people who are still at the base of the mountain. The fact that you can spend 5, 6, 7, 10 years in Bitcoin and still learn things every day. So the average transaction on Bitcoin is 140 V-bytes. So then it's 7 sats times 140 V-bytes is an average cost of 60 cents per transaction in that block. So that's got to be the case for everyone though, right? Like based on the average native SegWit transaction of 140 V-bytes. I'm just going to double check that. Yeah, it is. Interesting. I'd never seen that before. I'd never seen that before. But anyways, what I was saying there is you can like literally look at every single transaction that's happened. So some dummy paid 503 sats to send this transaction. Still only $34, but 56,000 sats. And that was only for one UTXO. One UTXO. You can see all of them. You can see all of them here. So that's what makes Bitcoin what it is. Lewis says, hey, George, do you think strategy will succeed in the future? I don't think that there's the company on the planet that's going to be more, it's going to be strategy. With a couple different stipulations on that. I'd say assuming the only thing that will be a yes or no there to that question will be if they actually have the Bitcoin. Because there's a lot of paper Bitcoin flying around right now. Do I doubt that they have it? No, I don't. I think that strategy has the Bitcoin that they have claim to, but they're still relying on other people to hold it for them. Like they have Coinbase, they have Fidelity, they have all these different custodians for it, which at this point might not be a bad strategy, truly, to kind of decentralize the holdings, to eliminate single point of failures. But eventually what strategy has to do, in my mind, is create a whole company around making sure that Bitcoin's safe. Like I'm talking like a 30 of 60 multi-sig where all the Bitcoin's in, and they can show that in there. They can show that they have the keys to it. Maybe once a year they do a ceremonial signature on it to verify that they have those Bitcoin for the public, not just for their auditors, for the public. And I think that that's the only thing that will really be the yes or no there. It won't be like, well, Bitcoin's price go low enough where they get liquidated. I don't think that there's a chance that happens. Or if they have obligations from their stretch products that they can't pay, none of that will happen. They might lose some Bitcoin if things go south for a while, but they're never going to lose their full stack. You know how much fucking Bitcoin they have, or they have a claim to anyways? Strategy really owns no Bitcoin. That's another thing you got to keep in mind. Strategy shareholders own 0 Bitcoin, and Strategy owns 0 Bitcoin. They have a claim to it. They have a claim to 800 and some thousand Bitcoin, but they don't. Strategy doesn't own any Bitcoin themselves. And so therefore there's like layers to it. It's like Stretch, MSTR, Strategy, Bitcoin. They don't have any Bitcoin. Do you know why? Because they don't hold the private key to it. And unless you hold the private key to your Bitcoin, you don't own it. So Coinbase owns it. Coinbase owns it. Strategy just has a claim to it. Fidelity owns the Bitcoin. Strategy just has a claim to it. So overall, I believe that Strategy has the Bitcoin. I believe that they will take steps to secure that Bitcoin and take full self-custody of that Bitcoin in the future. I don't think that's their priority right now, which is fair. It's fair. They've been very focused on accumulating as much as they can. So at some point, though, they need to shift that focus from accumulation to security. Because at some point, again, they're buying like 2,000, 3,000 Bitcoin. At some point, they're not going to be able to do that. They're going to be able to buy like 20 Bitcoin. So their balance, just like everybody watching the show today, their balance will eventually peak, where they look at their balance one day and then it never really moves because there's just not enough Bitcoin to buy. Objectively, mathematically speaking. So at that point, their accumulation phase is done. They've got the majority of their Bitcoin. Maybe that's when they shift to the security aspect of it. So I think that they will. I think that they have the Bitcoin. And I do think that Strategy will eventually become the #1 company on the planet. And they'll never fall down from that position based on their balance sheet. When that happens, I don't know. USA won last night. Yeah, they had a big win against who? I didn't even know the team they were playing. Never heard of it before. I hope Canada plays the US. That'd be a fun one to watch. Midwest Picker. Good morning, Midwest Picker. Josh, the King man. I saw this. I didn't see this till now, but Josh sent a King Zap to Arnie Boy this morning. Josh, oh wow, that must have been before he saw we were on Noster. So thank you, Josh. Appreciate that, brother. That was the first King Zap today. The first King Zap today. And so let's do some updates here. Let's do some updates. Bartertown says, thanks for streaming to Noster. Your setup works flawlessly. Wow. You must be new to the channel. The setup does not work flawlessly. It works most days pretty good. But flawlessly would be a stretch. I couldn't get on to Zapstream for like a freaking month. But yeah, before that, we were on Zapstream for like 2 years straight, it seemed like. Okay, let's do some updates here. Let's do some updates here. Merchant says sooner or later Sailor will understand why Satoshi vanished after stacking 1 million Bitcoin. Do you guys think that it's funny? I had a comment left on my. There's just so many freaking misconceptions. I mean, I could probably do this show for 3 hours today talking about this shit. But like, there's just so many misconceptions around Bitcoin. Like somebody left a comment on one of my videos yesterday. They're like, Bitcoin's great until one person dumps their stack and billions and trillions are wiped out of Bitcoin. And I'm like, who could do that? Sailor, maybe, if he decided one day that he was just going to sell all of his Bitcoin. I wouldn't consider the likelihood of that happening to be greater than 0.0000001%. So yeah, of course. But the crazy thing is, like, with such low odds there, people focus on that. And then it's like the flip side of that is that if Bitcoin wins, it's by far the most asymmetric bet in human history right now. And that's, to me, it's like, even the guy that I was talking about Bitcoin to yesterday, he's like, Bitcoin, I'll never understand Bitcoin. And that was it. That's where he ends for the day. That's where his brain checks out. He probably won't think of Bitcoin for the next year or maybe the rest of his life. But to me, it's like Bitcoin is the most asymmetric bet because you don't need that much. Like, let's say that this guy had $1 million worth of assets in his retirement fund. Maybe he has some farmland out here, his GIC at the bank. Let's say that's $1 million. Realistically, at this point in the game, all he would need to do is like allocate 1% of that to Bitcoin. 1% of it for his family for the rest of their lives. If this thing works out. If it doesn't, what does it matter? You lost 1%. You took a risk there. That's the risk there. You lose 1%. The reward is that your family never has to think about money again. They're the ones who live in that new world, who have the ability to buy high quality products and food and travel. That's the bet. 1% you could lose, or you give everything forever to your family. That's the bet. And it's just like, if he actually understood that, if I had an hour to sit down and talk to him about that, that changes everything. But again, I keep going back to it, but it's like the core knots, BIP 110 stuff. Instead of directing our energy to our internal battles here with stuff that in my mind isn't really going to have that big of an impact either way. We should be having conversations like this with these people who hold the wealth and help them understand how asymmetric this bet is, that there's really no way for them to lose. So I don't know, you know, there's frustrating days here. Today, I'd say, is one of those days. Today is one of those days, but that's okay. Sun can't shine every day, as BTO says. Bachman Turner Overdrive. I think that was them. So have a good time. The sun can't shine every day. What song is that? Here for a good time. Is it BTO? BTO? I'm going to put that on the playlist for tonight. What song did I say there? BTO? No, maybe it's not that one. Sun can't shine every day. Here for a good time. Not George Strait. Not a long time. That might be a different band. That might be it's another old rock band though. Not Poison. Trooper. I always confuse them with BTO. I think they're both Canadian. Maybe not. We're here for a good time, not a long time. I'm going to put that on the playlist. I thought, I had higher expectations of the chat there. I thought somebody in the chat would have known that was not BTO. Fooled me. Anyways, here we go. Let's update the list here. And I'm going to close down the tubes right now. So most people on the tubes don't care anyways, because most people on the tubes aren't on these lists. Just how it is. I shouldn't say most people, not all. There's some YouTube people on there who are supporters of the channel, but we're going to cut off the tubes because the tubes doesn't need to know this information. So anyways, YouTube, thanks for being here today. Show up tomorrow for Fad Zap Friday, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.